Dr. Hume, and today we will be talking about Chapter 21, more about tests and intervals, and Chapter 22, comparing two proportions. Alright, so the p-value is the probability of the observed statistic given that the null hypothesis is true. Now, the p-value is a very important part of hypothesis tests, so keep that in mind. Alright, and then the alpha levels determine what p-values are significant at that level or not. So they're basically the thresholds for p-values. Alright, confidence intervals and hypothesis tests are built from, guess what? The same calculations and the same conditions and assumptions, alright? So now you may ask, what are the conditions and assumptions? Well, a dependent assumption, a randomization condition, 10% condition, success-failure condition, and last but not least, independent group assumption. Alright, so, but you only use the independent group assumption for a two-proportion z-test because you're comparing two proportions. Anyway, so two-sided tests have an alpha level of 100 minus confidence level, and while one-sided has only one side, so it's going to be half of the 100 minus the confidence level. That's calculating alpha levels. All right, and then confidence level, how to calculate that? From an alpha level is 1 minus alpha level times 100, all right? So now types of errors, tricky little things. All right, so if I said I reject the null hypothesis, but it is false, this is okay. If I fail to reject, but it is true, this is okay. All right, and then if I reject the null, but the null is true, guess what? It's a type 1 error. All right, and then but if the truth is that the null is false and you fail to reject it, this is a type 2 error. All right.
Hey,
so
Brittany, why did the chicken cross the road?
Kip, do you know what a type 3 error is?
No, ma'am.
When you talk in my classroom, get out.
Sorry, Mrs. Hume.
All right. So power, our next subject, depends directly on effect size. And the more power you have, the more probability of correctly rejecting the null hypothesis, all right? So lastly,
I forgot my backpack.
Lastly, one proportion z-tests versus two proportion z-tests. All right, one proportion compares one proportion to a known one, while two proportion z-test compares two independent samples. Any questions? And now for a real-world problem, I am introducing our special guest, the forgotten tennis player, Mercury Williams. Hello, I am Mercury Williams, and you may not have heard of me because I stand in the shadow of my two famous sisters, but I am a very, very great tennis player, and I did some testing. There has just been a new invention of nylon strings for tennis rackets, and they claim to be more accurate than natural gut string, which I have used my whole entire life. And yes, natural gut string is made out of sheep gut. So I decided to carry out a random experiment to see if the claim was true. So I went to many stores and bought 400 random tennis balls and got 2 rackets, one with the nylon string and one with the natural gut string. Then one Sunday, I went out and hit 200 tennis balls with one of the rackets. I didn't know which racket string I had, but my friend who helped did. I used a ball machine and set it to random spray, and I hit 158 tennis balls in the court with the natural gut string. And then the next Sunday, I did the same exact thing but used the nylon string, and I got 172 tennis balls in the court out of 200 tennis balls. And that was my experiment. See you later, kids, on the courts. And that was our real-world problem, and the solutions are on the back, and you will be able to see them closer up later. But for now, our p-value from this test was 0.033. So what would we do with that? We would, say it with me, kids.
Reject the hoe.
Get out, Kip!
I'm sorry.
That is the final straw!
I'm sorry. I need my backpack.